Hello and welcome to the mcad podcast. I am your host, Colby Stachwick. My guest today is Chris Jantzen. Chris Jantzen is a carpenter, CAD technician, podcaster, live stream producer, musician, just all around entrepreneur and Renaissance man and my friend. And so I want to give a big welcome to Chris Jantzen. How you doing?
Great. Thanks, Colby. Thanks for that introduction.
Yeah, great.
I guess I always kind of been like a man of many hands. You know, it's hard for me to focus on just one thing. So,
well, I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Because I like so many things.
That's right. I like myself.
Actually, learning. I really like learning too. So
yeah, I think that's like we both hit it off because we're that way. I love a lot of things as well. Have a lot of interests. So some of the things that we've been working on is working on some CAD stuff together. In fact, I just this morning earlier we happened to be talking in a meeting and. It really, it reminded me made me think it'd be a good topic for us to talk about. But the CAD skills that you've been learning just since the short time that we've been playing around with this stuff, talk a little bit about how they've been helping you just amplify the other skills that you already had, how that's kind of working together. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, it's been pretty, it's interesting how once you start talking about something, it becomes more real. I have really tried in the latter years of my life to work kind of for myself in the hopes of creating my own hours and working when I want to and not having to work when I don't want to. Whereas so many jobs I've had in the past, being a carpenter, once you're working for a contractor, there's a heavy expectation. You're going to be there every day and maybe even Saturdays if they need you, the type of thing. Especially the bigger the company, the more organized and structured things are, the more you kind of get stuck in this track. And so trying to be out of that track, I've over the years tried to manage my own jobs. And that the relationships with people, they're always like, oh, you do carpentry? In fact, I was just on a little Zoom style meeting with a woman who I've been working for 7 or 8 years. And she was cleaning my teeth. She was the person they had in the dentist office to do the teeth cleaning. And she said, oh, you do carpentry work. Can you come work for me? And so it's been a long lifetime relationship. Well, lifetime, 5 years of our life at least, maybe more. But we've become close friends, and a lot of the people I work for are that way. And so, when I first started working for people, it's something like that. Oh, you do carpentry work, right? Like as soon as someone knows you do something, then they start bringing it up. Ever since you started getting me excited about CAD drafting, which was kind of a latent skill I didn't even really remember I had until we started talking about it, that I'd studied CAD. And, obviously I had really forgotten most of it once you started reintroducing me to things. But, some things came back. And then ever since I've started talking about that out loud, there must be 4 or 5 different times already in my relationship with people that I work for where in some way or another I've been asked either whether I can draw some type of plans or whether I can conceptualize something in the 2D or 3D graphics way, or it's just been used as a handy way for me to communicate with customers. And the longer I've been doing it, the more of these interactions have popped up. And it's really exciting and interesting. The possibilities seem like they're just expanding the more I learn and the better I get at doing these things. And a lot of it's not just doing of them, but knowing what tools to use to do a particular thing in a given amount of time and to make it reasonable and worth doing.
That's really cool. It makes me think about the way that you and I kind of met was through this online community, autonomy, learning, skills to be able to do, produce things like this online. And that's kind of,
skills to pay the bills.
that's right. And, basically all of these things are forms of communication and learning how to get ourselves out there and present our offer to the world, right? And really, CAD is just another one of those forms of communication. You have a lot of skills over the years that you've built up as a carpenter and working in the construction world, managing projects and whatnot. But, part of what you went to autonomy for, I'm sure, is learning the skill of parrhesia, right? To be able to communicate effectively to the customers that you're dealing with. And this CAD is really just a tool that helps you to be able to communicate effectively what the things that you can see, intuitively in your head because you've been working on projects, but a customer it's hard sometimes to know what they don't know. But an image, especially like a 3D image, really can help customers to understand things that you're trying to communicate that otherwise would have been impossible or just very difficult, right? I mean, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Oh, it's amazing. I remember in the years of construction, actually, I felt like I was one of the earlier people that started using my phone sooner than other people to like take pictures of things. Like, let's take a picture of the room before we go in there and take it apart, and then we'll know exactly how everything was. Or just send a picture quickly to whoever's in charge and ask them a quick question. Hey, is this thing in the picture here supposed to be like that? Why is that there? Type of thing. And I remember people making comments, oh, that's smart to take a picture. Or I'd write down the measurements on a piece of wood and then I'd take a picture of the piece of wood and bring the phone with me to go make the cut. And, it's simple things, but it's starting to recognize, oh, we have these technologies. We should start to employ them. And it's amazing, talking to different professionals out there, how many have this resistance to learning the new technologies, like, oh no, I'll never be able to do that, and I kind of feel the opposite, like everything I can learn to use, I will, but not to the point of just, you can only really keep so much stuff in your brain at once. So it's more in terms of practicality. So a perfect example of that is the planter boxes. We made that little video about the planter boxes, right? A person asked me if I could build them some planter boxes. And I know you can just go buy cheap planter boxes at Home Depot. So obviously this person wanted something a little nicer than the Home Depot style. So you and I got on SketchUp, actually, which isn't a CAD as much as it is a BIM, correct?
Well, not quite actually. It's 3D. It's a 3D modeler.
3D modeling, right?
But it's not natively BIM, but you can add on stuff to it that kind of makes it BIM. BIM specifically means building information modeling, which is like Revit is what most people think of, where it's like when you draw a wall and throw a door in it, it knows it's a door, and so it knows how much of the wall to take out.
Chief Architect.
Yes, exactly. Chief Architect is a BIM product, yeah. But right. SketchUp is just is really cool because it's more like CAD, where you can draw more. You have more control over what you draw. You can do whatever you want. Whereas in a BIM program, it's really cool, all the stuff that it does, but there's also a lot more restrictions, and it's kind of harder to do things. Whereas with SketchUp, you can just draw whatever you want. It's a lot of fun, right? I mean, you've experienced, I think.
Yeah, I've really been finding a lot of applications for SketchUp for the deck building work I've been doing recently, just because they're very specific. Like, when you put together a handrail, for instance, there's different ways to do it. Go around, look at some different decks, and you'll see that some people turn the 2x4 one way or the other, or leave the space on the bottom, or there's different orientations for the posts, and then whether they go through the deck or whether they, connect to the outside. So you can actually like try all that in the digital space and move it around and be like, oh, okay, what if I notch that a little bit? And then you see how that affects the other pieces of wood that you're touching. And you can actually measure the actual distance, like what's left over if I do that. Oh, okay, I see. So, um, we did that with some cabinetry that was using Chief Architect for a person who, I met who has done these things lots of time before, but he got into a situation where the measurements were really weird. He really needed to be able to see it, and so I was able to draw what he wanted to see on Chief Architect, and then actually measure well where the numbers are printed out. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, totally. Um, Man, I don't.
Can be a little time consuming, the learning end of things.
Oh yeah, that's
But I've found it so enjoyable that it's worthwhile. It's like a video game for big left brain boys and girls.
yeah. Most things worth doing are a little bit difficult, but not too difficult. Like what is it? Can't remember what's the book, but you can pretty much learn anything. Just achieve a limited degree of mastery in 20 hours to get to learn something. What is? You remember that one? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But just playing around with it, and the thing that I think we've talked about a lot too is it's a big difference trying to learn one of these programs. If you just say, "Oh, I want to learn CAD," and then what do you do? What do you draw? What do what do you learn how to do? What lessons do you take? But when you have a specific thing, a specific project where you have, you're a carpenter and you're already building things, you have something that you want to learn how to draw. I think it's a lot easier in some ways because you have a specific goal that you're trying to figure out. I know what I need to draw. I just need to figure out how to accomplish it, And once you learn how to draw one piece of lumber and make it into copy it, make another one, that's the magic of CAD. You only have to draw one thing once and then just hit copy after that. And then the beauty of being able to see it in 3D.
But all those little steps in between, just hitting copy and paste, like in CAD, for instance, paying attention to the little prompt and pushing enter or right clicking at the right time,
right?
Knowing which tool you're on, understanding why the lines are highlighted or not, or whether they're moving around, all those little things when I would mess around by myself could hold me up for hours and hours. Spending that one-on-one time with you and actually doing some projects, it's like skyrocketed my ability to now I can sit by myself and actually finish a small project. I still have to keep in mind how big I have to be careful how big a project I take on. But if I keep it small and focused, I can do it, Whereas I don't know if we wouldn't have spent that one-on-one time together. I think I'd get frustrated after 3 hours of clicking on the same thing and nothing happening, because that's kind of what happens if you don't start getting some of that. And I feel like,
yeah, okay, that's very interesting. I'm appreciate to hear that. What do you think specifically? I think you've mentioned before that there did seem like a point with SketchUp specifically where we did kind of go over something and you seemed to get a better handle on it. Do you remember what that was specifically? Was it the understanding components and groups? You think that was like
this past time, the second round, I remember the first time around when we were doing the planter boxes, right when I had been working with you, and I'd finished the rest of the planter box on my own when you had done the beginning part or something like that. I remember I had been moving along pretty good and I was changing the sizes of dimension of lumber and everything. But then, I hadn't messed with it and 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many months went by and I picked it up trying to do it by myself. And I could not remember that aspect with the group, making things groups and then how to change them once they are a group. And that really threw me for a loop. And also entering in the measurements, I had to relearn that. And it's still, there's aspects of that. Sometimes I'm like, why does it work that way sometimes? And then the other doesn't, and I'll hear your voice and you'll be like, let's find out, do an experiment. Let's understand what's going on here, So I think those fundamentals, spending a little time with someone who knows what they're doing, can really keep you from that stuck in the mud, stuck in the tar zone for hours and hours, and get you to where you're actually getting some stuff done. Pretty important.
Well, very cool. Okay, that's good to hear. Glad to hear that I was able to help you with that. What else you
Huge.
got? Yeah, I appreciate it. What else you got going on? Other projects you got? Interesting. Your podcast you just wrapped up, right? You just you're doing a little was it 6-episode segment
I've been on
about?
a series.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and that's as far as technological challenges, In fact, why my background's a little funny tonight is because I was playing with my green screen right before the show. But the last presentation I did, I wanted to play the slides behind me. And then, so I set up a little green screen. And that went pretty cool. I'm always challenging myself with my technology on the podcast as well. But yeah, we've been doing multiple part series on symbology, studying symbolism and the importance of symbols. And boy, is that important in technology, and then in the mental realm of thinking about things, and then in the spiritual realm of being a good person. Symbols come into play on all levels. So that's been really fun because I've been doing some research on some of the weeks where I present, and then bringing some other weeks where I've been bringing on guests and having some kind of live interactive roundtable type talks.
Very cool. And when you first told me about how you did that, I was really amazed. You mind talking a little bit about how you set up that little roundtable group that you just kind of spread the message that you wanted to start doing this and invited people and you built it and they came, right? Kind of a little. It was a little bit like that.
And somewhat. There's always that feeling of, oh, no one's gonna watch this, no one's gonna come. And I did have a lot of that too, where I was disappointed and didn't. But I kept with consistency. I always did the show Thursday nights, and as soon as I heard about the importance of email lists, I started trying to develop an email list. And once I got a few people joining that email list, I sent out like a call, like anybody who's curious and getting more active or involved in doing the type of content creation I'm doing, let me know. And several people did actually connect with me. And I formed a small group, mastermind group from that 5 guys who contacted me. And we're almost 2 years going strong of making our own content. It's called the One Great Work Warriors. Me and the other 5 guys will meet every Tuesday, and we'll talk about ideas and come up with a plan. And then at the end of the month, we do a recording together. And so that's something I've been really proud of, because it started just from creating my own little group and then using that, what I kept learning in advertising, all the advertising shows and podcasts I listened to, is that still email advertising super important. And I wasn't really selling something to make money in this case. I'm trying to sell myself. I'm trying to sell the idea of good morality leading towards a better future for all human beings. And that's something that we should be working on, and trying to inspire people and motivate people to work on that in their own way, because I know it'll make them feel better. And I know that is the solution towards the future, is each of us contributing towards that, what's best for all of us.
That's very cool. It sounds like your podcast is something that you're passionate about. In fact, I know for a fact it is. If I understand, well, basically, you've been doing the most of your life, if I understand correctly, carpentry for the most part, because that's what you've become proficient at for profitability to support yourself. But at some point you had this idea, and before the podcast existed, it was just an idea, and there was, a story in between of how, that coming to fruition. How did you go from, just being a carpenter, trying to figure out how to not be enslaved, but having this other idea and bringing that to fruition? Like, how did that even come about, and how did you, just, I guess, give me a little bit of that story.
Oh, like a long trail of bent nails and bruised fingers, one step after another. It's cool to look back. For me, like, there's a very specific sort of marking point about 2011. And 2011 to 2012 in my life was like this crazy awakening, re-realizing, reinterpreting reality experience that I went through. And then it took a while before, even after that, until 2020 was when I really got into the End Evil podcast. I had taken one go at sort of a musical truth-telling podcast in the years between that it was really cool. It was called The Scritch Show, and I was playing this music that me and my friends used to make up, and then talking about stories and philosophy, and that was pretty cool. So that, like, and during that period of time was also when I first tried my first major entrepreneurial push, and I started my Grin Again Goods, where I was selling a couple little products on Amazon, and those were all big things at the time, and none of them were like big giant wins. Like, I didn't make a bunch of money. I didn't get famous from my Scritch Show podcast, but I learned a lot, and I made friends in each of those processes. So then when it came time when I wanted to start the End Evil podcast in 2020, I had a little more uh, strategy and tactics in mind about how to go about it. I had an idea who the audience I was looking for, and I went out and specifically found people in groups like on Facebook that were already excited about the topic I was about to talk about. And I asked in there, kind of similar to the other thing I did, like, anybody interested in making like a mastermind support group with me, And we managed to form this group, 5 or 6, 7. It's kind of fluctuated a little bit over the 2-3 years that we were together. And we still have a small part of that group that are working towards the Freedom Under Natural Law conferences. We did 3 conferences, and all online productions with all kinds of speakers, 2-day events that turned out pretty awesome. And people could check out freedomundernaturallaw.com. And that was also kind of done in the same way, just by starting to one step at a time. I started the group, or look for other people that wanted to help start a group, and there were a couple other individuals that helped me get it going. And then that led to another place for me to share this podcast. I got and also along the way, getting involved with autonomy. Then there's this whole other group of people you meet. They're all so interested in freedom and entrepreneurial type topics. So just one step at a time has been this journey for me of learning how to get my voice out there, how to create something digitally that can be shared far and wide as possible. How do you get into the eyes and ears of people that want to hear what you have to say? And that just became more important to me. I don't know. I do know exactly why. It's because the extremity of the problems that I have come to recognize about our reality in our world, and that was what happened to me way back in 2011 and 2012, as it really sunk in just how bad the situation is as far as humanity and where we're at. That I really do think that we're in dark a dark time. And for those of us that become aware of that in this lifetime, it falls upon us to try to do everything we can to improve that, not just for ourselves, but for everyone else who might have the opportunity to live going forward.
That's really cool. It sounds like an important message that you have to spread there with your podcast. You mentioned really, it sounded like a lot of what you were describing. When I hear that, just a lot of skills come to mind. I know my experience to get to this point, it was a lot of work learning a lot of new skills, and all the things you described, I'm hearing the time going into those skills. And one thing I think that is a little bit unique about, it's not totally unique, but it's important about your story, I think we should highlight, because I think it could encourage some people. I don't want to, you can tell people your age if you want to, or when you first started doing this stuff, but my understanding is that you had not really used a computer even very much. Is that correct?
Yeah, what do they call it? Luddite. I was resistant to materialism of all forms in a lot of ways. And we had computers. So, like, I remember making um, like Word document type stuff. I had done resumes, most of the jobs I had made a resume for. So it wasn't like I was total, never used a computer guy, but I didn't spend time on it. I wasn't really interested in learning programming. I had a friend who knew programming. I was exposed to that at a very young age. My mom actually put me in a basic, sit in front of those original green screen where the computer and the keyboard are all connected, and you'd be like 10, So, I had been exposed to this technology, but I kind of resisted it. And after high school, I was just like trying to avoid it as much as possible. And in fact, at one point, and when I was talking about like right after 2012, right after my realizations about everything, I had downgraded to a flip phone because I didn't want a fancy phone, on purpose. And so when I started doing the podcast, I had to decide, oh man, I got to bite the bullet and go buy a fancy phone now because I wanted the apps and I wanted to be able to start to advertise and learn how to do social media. And so, yeah, it's all from there, starting from nothing pretty much. I started with Facebook. That's where Facebook groups, where I first discovered some people. And I was on Twitter back then, and when it was called Twitter. But yeah, 49, I think, this year. So it's never too late to learn. That for me, the incredible technological learning curve in the last 3-4 years, going from someone who, barely knew how to post some things to now someone who knows how to create content. And I know quite a different array of things. You're right. It's kind of mind blowing how much I've learned in the last few years. I think from video editing to graphics, manipulation, and now I'm getting into AI. You know, we should probably talk about that for a minute.
Well, yeah, real quick, I just wanted to highlight, something that what you're describing to me, what I hear, but it sounds like similar to when we were talking about the CAD stuff. It's really through, like, if you want to have accelerated learning, the key here to bring out with anything. I mean, this is what I've found to be true as well for myself. But all of these things, you had something that you were practicing doing. It wasn't like you just went out, oh, I'm going to learn video editing. What am I going to work on? You had something specific that you were trying to edit a video, is why you were learning, that you were producing this podcast or whatever, and so
that's so important.
Yeah.
If you don't have a passion or a purpose that's driving you, there's no way you're going to get past all the obstacles that are going to get in your way. You have to want something. You have to really want something. I'm very driven when I make up my mind that I want to do something. If I wanted to make a podcast, whatever it took for me to learn it, I was going to learn it, and if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, well, it's going to cost me whatever money and time and energy it's going to cost, and I'm going to keep doing it until I can say I did it. I don't know, for each person, they have to find what gives them that drive, where passion is not something that's for sale and you can just buy, or explain it to someone how it works. It's something that we have to be driven from deep inside ourselves. And I think in a lot of ways it comes from that part of ourselves that wants to fix something that we see as not being right, or that we're harmed by in the past, or someone we love, and we want to make it better, we want to make it right. So I would challenge people, you got to find that passion and what drives you deep down. And it doesn't matter what the obstacles are, because then once you set a goal, you'll learn whatever you have to learn, because it'll be fun, because it's on that path to what makes you feel good is being part of your purpose, serving your purpose here on this path of life.
Right. I think it's really important when you're starting a business. If you're starting out looking for something, don't know what to do, it's important that you look for something that is both. It's in the intersection of the three P's: profitability, proficiency, meaning you're proficient enough at it, and also you're passionate about it. Because there's going to be times, it doesn't matter what it is, work is work. Sometimes there's going to be a little bit of a grind. If you don't have that passion, you won't be able to get through that part of it. There's always, you got to go down through the valley to get to the other side. You got to go through the 40 years in the wilderness to get through the promised land. It's just the learning experience training us. Let's see.
The perfect metaphor for that, a car. Have you ever known anybody who just their parents or their family member just gave them a car? And when we were young, how did they treat that car, right? And then those of us who had to bust our butt and earn our own money to buy our first car, how did we treat that car? It's how do you treat something when it just comes to you for free? And how do you treat something when you have to work your butt off for quite a while to do it? You treat it with a whole different level of respect and care, because you know how much it took to get there. And that's the way it is with something that you have purpose about. And that's actually the process of building purpose, is finding something that you care about, that you're willing to push through resistance for, figuring out what gives you that.
Well said. That's excellent. I agree wholeheartedly. I know you mentioned something about AI, and I'd love to go into that. But real quick, I wanted to ask you a little bit about this little side. Was one of the early entrepreneurial endeavors you made along the path. You mentioned real briefly the Grinnigan Goods.
Oh yeah.
You mind just talking a little bit about how you came up with an idea, and then you were pitching it and made a video? That was like one of your first videos, forays into
It'll show up here. Look at this. I still have the last one. This is the box. There's a cold brew coffee and tea infuser. This was my second product. My first product was just a little electronic component, just because it was cheap. But this one I actually designed. You probably can't see, it's kind of showing up black and white. It's actually yellow and black. But I actually had this designed, and I had these printed and made in China. And what they were was the whole idea is that, you people like me that use mason jars, you could infuse your herbs inside the mason jar. This was part of the idea too, to save the earth, right? It said Grinnigan Goods right on the little rim there. So that just sits, down inside of the jar like that, and then you can. This is the wrong size jar for this particular one. It's for the smaller ones, but anyway, if I could get the view right here, there we go. You could put or make cold brew coffee. You could screw the lid back on; it'll seal. And I did a bunch of research on how to have these things made just the right size for the jars I wanted to use them in. Had a little insert printed out that would go inside that explained how to use it. And Yeah, it was pretty exciting to go through that whole process, and I learned just an amazing amount of stuff while I went through it. In the end, I wound up a little bitter with Amazon and how they treated me, but I was a small businessman trying to compete with huge corporations, and I learned some lessons about advertising, and I learned lessons about how to keep something in stock, all kinds of lessons. And I can no longer say I've never had a business. It's like, no, I have had a business now. I did that. So
That's
yeah.
that's very cool, and I bet I'm not that you would necessarily want to. In fact, you may, from your experience, know that that's not the direction you would go for various reasons. But if you did do something like that again, at this point, with all of those experiences plus the experiences you have now, I imagine it would be a whole lot easier process. Would you say, with all the skills that you have now to do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And along the way, because like that project and other product ideas I've developed, like if one thing ever does start, kind of hitting the way I hope, then I have all these other ideas that I could possibly bring into play. And some of them, the only thing holding me back was the budget to get started on it, or an advertising budget, which was what I really lacked on the that particular project with the coffee and tea infusers. I think it really was a great product, but it was a product that was going to require educating the customer somewhat as to the awesomeness of why they need this. And for somebody starting out as an entrepreneur by themselves, it can be a little bit more difficult to do that if you don't have a budget for it set aside. And that was something I didn't realize, but now I know that. Now I know that. And so it depends on what you're selling, how much budget you need for advertising. Something that people are already out there looking for every day, that's not where you don't need as much money set aside for that.
Very cool. I'm sure there's a ton of lessons. I know every entrepreneurial activity I've ever done always was something new that I learned that's helped build to where I'm at now. So tell me about AI. What cool AI tools are you using these days?
I had a little battle going on my last presentation between Adobe's AI um, text to graphic tool, I think, which I don't remember its name, and then the other one, which is through FreePick, and I was trying them both, going back and forth. And FreePick, I'll tell you what, does a lot better with, let's just say, challenging the norm, where Adobe's AI generator is very sensitive to hot button issues. Let me put it that way. So like it would sometimes just tell me I couldn't do that because it didn't like the way I entered the prompt, and I would enter the same prompt in the free pick one and it would make me a picture. But I was having a lot of fun, with like just trying to describe what I want drawn in text. But they also, all these AI generators also now have options where you can bring in an image and say, or combine two images. And I'm no expert on this, but the process of learning is pretty exciting. And then I also have been playing a lot with Photoshop over the last 3 years. And that's why I have Adobe, because I love Photoshop. I love the ability to separate layers and take out the background. And a lot of this you can do for free online with AI tools too. If you just look up background removers or enhancement, there's tools to do all these things, and most of them you can do free. But when you get into the paid tools, it's just like you can do them faster and better and all in one place. So I've been using a combination, really enjoying making my slides using a combination of the AI generating from text my ideas, and then I'll take those basic images, and then I'll put them in Photoshop, and I'll add my own words. And sometimes even on the words, I might get like they have these mock-ups of various font styles, but ones that are really fun, that have 3D styles to them, or multiple colors, or multiple layers, and then you can just have them say whatever you want them to say. And there's all kinds of mock-ups too, like mock-ups of a television, mock-up of a watch, and you can put any image on it, you know? So to me, it's endless fun playing with the images and trying to find ways to explain what's trying to be said. And I got a big introduction to that actually working for Richard Grove for well over a year, just doing images for his thumbnails. And then, you know, you'd have like the topic idea for the podcast episode, and I'd be like, how can I make an image that displays that, you know? So yeah, that's mostly how I use AI. But then I found a whole new thing that I've been doing, which is my own text. Is like I create presentations, and so half of it is creating the slides, the other half is creating the content of the words of what I'm going to say. And so what I've started doing is I'll just record myself. Like just right now, I'll turn on my OBS, or Restream is something I use, something that's just recording my face and my voice. And I'll just talk right off the top about what it is that the subject matter is. And then there's a lot of tools to do this for free also, but I use my Adobe product, which is Premiere Pro, and that's a video editing program. And it has it can take any audio and turn it into text. So as soon as I have a video of me recorded just talking about whatever, I might even do this while I'm driving with my cell phone, just get the audio. And then I'll put it into that video editor program, and it'll give me the text. And then I take that text and I go on ChatGPT, and I say, ChatGPT, take this text, and I want you to create for me an outline and rewrite it in a more concise essay with 3 or 4 paragraphs, or depending on how long I want it to be. And create a list of bullet points and create 10 slide ideas for me. And it'll just do all that for free, no problem. And then you take that, and then that gives me more ideas for slides. So then I could go back to the AI generator and say, hey, can you make a slide that's a combination of a fish and a hat? You know, whatever ideas come off of the outline I have now. And then create more images. And then, you know, you can kind of keep going through this AI thing where it's not coming up with the ideas. It's just reorganizing them. And I'm coming up with the ideas, and I'm saying them, and I'm having it rewrite them. And then I'm reading the way it rewrote it and having it condense it, take out the most important points. And then I'll say, like, find me some quotes to back up what I'm saying. Find the definitions of these words, you know? And so it's amazing what you can get done with AI. It's the same stuff that used to take me 3 days that I can do now in half a day. It's pretty amazing.
That's very cool. I had similar experiences. We just finished up our fire sprinkler CAD basics course, and I was using similar types of processes you know, I had like idea of my outline, and like you said, I just spoke it into ChatGPT or whatever, and just kind of would put stuff out there, kind of diarrhea of the mouth or whatever, and it'll just organize it. You know, you just throw ideas like throwing spaghetti on the wall. I think that's a term you told me or say often, if I remember right. It's really helpful because you really do. It's something I've experienced over the years producing things. It's way easier. Like, you could see when things are bad. So if you could just, and what's wrong, what's bad, but you got to just get something out. That's why, like we've been talking about, you got to just practice these things to have accelerated learning. When you just like practice writing, you just kind of you're able to write, you just got to keep writing, but you look at it and you can kind of see, oh, I can use this part's good, I can put this here. It's easier to see once it's out there. And then the beauty of like ChatGPT is it just takes it and organizes it for you, and it's like bullet points. Oh yeah, that is what I was saying. It's very handy.
Yeah, it's just like what we were talking about with trying to talk about a deck with somebody. You can stand there and say, well, we're going to get the one 2x4 and we're going to turn it this way, and the other one is going to be against that one. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then, you're trying to have a conversation, right? But now if you can show them, send them a text of a visual image that shows exactly what the heck you're talking about with color-coded images, like that's so much better. And that's exactly what we're talking about, is finding a way to communicate better,
Very cool. So, is that the main AI tools you'd say are used right now? Is the was it FreePix image editor or image producer or something?
Yeah, and all the stuff in Adobe suites. I'm constantly playing with, because if you look inside of Photoshop or Premiere Pro or their website, they're always putting new stuff in there. You just have to keep like opening the menu and looking through, and where it says automate, it has all these options. So those are the main ones. Yeah, I've been using. Checked out some of the clip making tools like Opus Clip. I think you told me about.
Yeah,
I just used that one. It was pretty good. I was pretty amazed by what it came up with. And there's the other one I've used before too, which I'm blanking out on it. But anyway, there's no end to the possibilities. You just got to keep checking them out and trying which ones are working better, and seeing what new things are coming out that are being developed.
Yeah, that's right. And you just start to doing something. Just start producing, and as you're producing, learn through the process with the tools. That's very cool.
You can start to define the vision.
That's right. Well, let's see. What else? Anything else new you got going on that you want to talk about?
Well, I got a big project I'm excited about. I was showing you the previews to the workstation project I've been working on for quite some time. And that hopefully I'll be able to share with the public in the next couple months here. But yeah, like all this time learning all this technology and doing everything from shadow hosting to image creation to podcasting, just watching a movie with my girlfriend, like you learn a lot about how to set up your technology in such a way that you don't ruin your body doing it. And I happen to have this, again, along the way of all the skills I learned, I picked up this whole skill set about ergonomics. And so I decided that since I was having so much fun rebuilding my workstation over and over, I might as well build something that other people can use too, that could become a product. And I think a lot of people need an awesome little modular workstation where you can sit or stand, and you could just set us up in a room or in a garage. And so I'm still on the design phase of this, and then as soon as I get it built, I'm going to turn it into something that hopefully other people can design and build themselves, or have me build and send it to them.
Very cool. I did see your initial design, and it's very cool. I think that is such a important thing. In my course that I just completed, it's something I brought up every week. One week I went over it a little bit more than the others, but it's something I just continually mentioned. If you are going to be doing CAD work or any work in front of a computer, like video editing, any of this stuff, long hours, you got to have a setup to be comfortable. It's just, there's just no, it seems like, oh, what is the big deal? You're just working at a computer, it's like easy. If
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
As it turns out, very dangerous. The most dangerous thing you could possibly do is make the same movement over and over and over and over. And that's what the temptation is when you work in front of a computer. People in the office are way more screwed up than people out in the field. Turns out, as I discovered, which I thought it was going to be the other way around, but I was wrong, because you're doing repetitive motion when you're sitting at a desk. And so that's why, the same problems people always have in their wrist, due to being on the edge of a desk and holding a mouse and having this action going on over and 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 over. So if you're feeling pain, it's usually something you're doing over and over. And once you start changing your habit, you'll find that pain diminishes, assuming you haven't damaged yourself so badly. So take it serious.
And if you haven't set yourself up for this ahead of time and thought about this, how are you going to be able to pull off that offer that somebody gives you to, hey, can you edit this video by tomorrow? Hey, can you draft this sprinkler design by tomorrow? Because if you can't, because 3 hours in you're cramped up and you're done, you might not make that bonus money that somebody's dangling in front of you. So it's, but besides all of that, that's just one thing. But you can't, I wouldn't recommend doing a marathon CAD or video editing very often, but every once in a while it does happen, to where you can make, if you can churn something around projects, there's always people willing to pay for that ability, but you have to be able to be comfortable to do it. But even just, day in and day out, I really like a standing desk. We've talked about this a lot. I like the feature on that one that you're working on that is, switches back and forth to have the option to go either way. It's multifunctional. But it seems kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people. Don't you get, tired standing all day? But it's much more comfortable, I've found. But I also take into consideration all of the ergonomics. I have my arms fully supported here on the table when I'm drafting. I've got gel pads under my elbows and things like that. What kind of stuff do you do to stay comfortable for long sessions? I know you do. Usually you're standing, right, when you're doing editing and those types of things?
Yeah, but I have the station I'm at now, I have a stool I can pull over, and a couple different ways to move my keyboard. So it's just a keyboard that's not connected, so it's easy to move around. And I really can't do those marathons like some people do. Like, I have to get up. I'll go outside, do some kicks, work on some self-defense moves, do some push-ups, just move around. But yeah, I try to keep a variety going, and yeah, being really thoughtful how I set it up in the first place with the heights so I don't have to strain my neck. And just having 2 or 3 different options seems to be what's best for me, like not sticking with the exact same thing all the time. And so that's part of why the workstation I'm building is going to have the ability to move the keyboard tray in and out, and move the seat in and out, so that you can create a variety of different situations and you don't have to always be sitting the same way. Like, that's the most important. But yeah, I use the gel pad too under my mouse. I have 2 or 3 different mice. Sometimes one works better than the other, or I start feeling a little cramp in my hand, I'll switch to the other one that's more ergonomic, So yeah, that's the pretty much basic advice, is just keep a variety of ways of doing things handy.
Yeah, I think I agree totally. Switching it up is an important thing. And also, like what you said, is the most important thing of getting up once in a while. Some people are stuck in an office, they can't go outside, but just completely breaking away from the computer and looking out a window is so valuable if you're stuck in one of those environments. I don't think the blue light for 8 hours of a day, plus the fluorescent lights overhead. I really don't think we were made to go through that kind of stuff. Well, man, I really appreciate your time this evening. I know we both got stuff going on. I want to be respectful of your time, but I am sure that we will have much more to talk about. We have a lot of ongoing projects together, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you. If you ever want to plug any one of your events, I want to invite you. Feel free to let me know, reach out. We will do this again, but I'm sure I will be inviting you again soon. I will be sure and get whatever link information that you want me to place in the description of this so people can reach out to you. I want to mention too that we do have, if you sign up for our course, we have the paid boot camp, but we also have a free content page that I'll put the link to below, and it has a place where you can book time with Chris Jantzen directly through there if you would like to schedule an appointment with him. And also we will post, like I said, all your information. Go ahead and tell the people whatever you would like to plug about your sites, podcast and whatnot.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Yeah. endevil.life is my main website. I also have a tap link. Maybe we'll put that in the tap link.cc/Chris Jantzen. And Jantzen is Jantzen. And you can check me out at chrisjantzen.com too. And if you want to connect with me there or through endevil.life, you'll find my contact info. And I'm on Facebook and YouTube, and those are my main hangouts. So yeah,
Very cool.
Instagram, I guess I'm on there too.
Nice. Yeah, you got them all. I need to work on that. Very cool. Well, so check out Chris.
Well, there's a lot more than that.
I know, right? I know. There's so many. Yeah, I know. That's all of them. Anyway, lots of great places to find Chris and his content. I really recommend you check out his podcast, End Evil, which I check it out on YouTube. That's the easy place for me to get it. But we'll list all the places that you can find that in the comments of this podcast. But thanks again, Chris. Really appreciate it, and we hope to have you back soon.
Yeah, much love.
All right, thanks.
All right, folks.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.